listen.
We're not on camera currently because I have the live sign up.
The thing up.
All right, here we go. 5, 4.
This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Why, yes, let us pick up those mics. Oh, wait a minute, we have lavs these days. We don't pick up mics. And get on with this thing.
Clip on those mics?
Clip on those mics
and get on with this thing.
The 368th episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast, where we are going to continue our exploratory play of For the Queen as we keep Alex Roberts in our prayers. She got hit by a car.
Yeah.
And
She's recovering.
But
Diana Jones
winner. Alex Roberts for Starcrossed.
Yeah. But I mean, that's just one because maybe she can repeat.
Yeah. For the Queen.
So.
Yeah.
Well, with that, my name is Chris.
My name is Phil.
And I'm Old Man Logan.
Oh, we are here. It is Tuesday night. I am exhausted.
Because we can start with your one thing.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do one thing. Let's do one thing. That's where we talk about one thing about our week.
Yeah, because I think that'll explain your exhaustedness.
I had to stay up for 38 hours straight. I took an hour nap in there somewhere, but the reason was because I had to work, and then I had to go right from work to new work orientation. Which lasted,
new work orientation is now in the daytime.
In the daytime.
Which is normally your sleep time.
Correct. So my entire sleep time was new work orientation. And then I got to come home and do some things for the boxes for Avalon, which, by the way, if you're watching the stream, you could see the Avalon hardcover book sitting on the table, standing up right there, next to For the Queen. And then I got to take that nap. But then I had to go to a meeting for the 48-hour film festival, which I'm participating in this weekend.
Dude, this weekend, you have got to get some sleep. Like, you're going to not get a lot of sleep heading into the 48-hour film festival.
I'm not going to sleep a lot during the weekend, so I better sleep the next day or two. And then I had to go right back to work after that. And then I came home and I had to put up the show for today, which is awesome. Like, I mean, these are all good things. These are all things that were necessary and needed to be done. So, have you fixed it, Bob? Have you put For the Queen in the spot that's between the nameplates? I feel like you've done that. Like, he's just laughing over there now for those who can't see. By the way, if you're listening to us via podcast, we have a live stream. It's on Twitch every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. till about 10 p.m. And, we have these cool nameplates now for our names, except when we put things in the table, we have to move them so that they're around the nameplate. So Bob was just sliding For the Queen off to the left to get it around the nameplate.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's my one thing.
Just do some blocking on the table.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, man, you must be. Like, that is
coffee number 4.
That's a shittier sleep schedule than my sleep schedule, and it's
not by choice.
Phil's used to having like no sleep.
Yeah, you know what? It wears on you. Like, my tank's actually pretty low right now. Like, I needed a nap, and I didn't have one. Like, I'm gonna feel that later. But yeah, that's me. Bob, how about you?
I can chew on both sides of my face again. Yes. I had a root canal last week Wednesday, and that went well. And then Friday I went in for the permanent filling, quote unquote, and talked about the crown, which is going to cost me money because my insurance only covers so much per year.
Yeah.
And I have now exhausted that. So if I want a crown, I either have to pay for probably $800-900 out of pocket or wait until January. And I'm like, I'll wait until January. So yeah. But now everything's like almost back to normal. There's still a little sensitivity to cold and even less sensitivity to heat, but I can actually chew on both sides of my face. So
yay!
That's awesome. I read a thing about how stupid it is that we have separate dental insurance. Like, why
all of our medical type insurance stuff is stupid.
Yeah, but why is dental always separate? And it's not only separate, it's shittier.
Yeah.
Like, I have like pretty great health insurance. My dental insurance is kind of okay.
Yeah.
And it's different from your vision.
Yeah. Which is also like whatever scam got like perpetrated to keep those apart. And the argument I read was that like it's a luxury to have teeth because it doesn't actually stop you from working. So employers are less interested in paying for it. Which is a pretty brutal capitalistic view, and not one that I don't think is wrong. Like, just, whatever. Anyway, I read it. It was on the internet, so it must be
It
true.
has to be true.
No. Anyway, I did.
For those who can't see, because you're not watching, I am making strange quizzical faces at Phil.
I gotta lay off Twitter. Like I get angry and I start like rummaging through Twitter looking for something to burn.
You know what the best cure for Twitter burning is?
What's that?
Talking about games.
Yeah, well, I will talk about games because my one thing is that I ran the finale to my Masks arc. I guess it's part of the campaign, but it's we're stopping because Tony, the Rainmaker, is his wife's going to have a baby imminently. So this was our last session. So we did our climactic conclusion to our time traveling saga, and it was a lot.
It was wild. It was fun. It was emotional.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was good. 2 of the 3 characters unlocked their moments of truth in that game and then used them.
Ooh.
So it got it got way out there because those moments of truth, once they're used, like it's full on narrative. Like there's no rolling for it, which was perfect because that's how the climax to that story needed to go.
Yeah.
So it was really good, and it wrapped nicely. It's in a place where if we want to come back and play it again, it's totally playable. Like we can totally just pick back up and go again.
I feel like Tony's in trouble. He's about to be evened up with his wife versus kids.
Yes. Yeah, he's about to move to man-on-man coverage.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. He's going from 2-on-1 to man-on-man coverage. That's a very different parenting model.
For those, Tony is the Rainmaker.
Yes.
The oft talked about Rainmaker on the show.
Yeah, he's you know what, he's such a fantastic player, and it was really good. He himself was a little worked up heading into the episode or into the issue. And he was getting really animated and kind of emotional, and he's like, I don't know if any of these are moves, and I'm like, Tony, just tell me what you want to do. Like I will handle the mechanics. Like just tell me tell me what your character's doing. Like we'll make it work. So that worked out really well. So it was a fairly ambitious storyline. Like it's probably the more ambitious thing I've written. I would put it up there with like the White Fang or something it was like many sessions to complete that arc.
Yeah, it sounds awesome.
Yeah. And was like this big war. Anyway, it was cool.
The 2 moments of truth just played out perfectly. It was great.
Yeah, it was perfect. Tony saved the 25th century, and Bob rescued his aunt from 1901 before Buffalo was destroyed.
That's not
super
complicated
sketchy
at all.
temporal mechanics.
Super sketchy temporal mechanics, but it's a moment. It was a moment of truth, so it's like, well, that's just gonna happen.
Yep.
Wibbly wobbly.
Wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey
Yes.
stuff. Yep.
There was a lot of wibbly wobbly, timey wimey stuff going on in that game, but it all worked. It was super comic booky. Anyway, our next game is going to be Operators in the John Wick universe.
I'm fascinated by this game.
Yeah.
Operators or both the setting and the
Yes.
yeah.
But when you told me about the fate with the cards,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
I'm I'm resisting the urge. I'm trying to be really good and like not invest in a game that I'm not 100% sure is going to go off yet. Like all I want to do is buy gold coins. Like I just want to like hand the players each like a stack of gold coins and at the start of the game and be like,
Book down.
These are your, like use these when you need to.
You can open that up a little bit more, buddy.
Use these when you need to make some narrative moves. Like I'd like to make a dinner reservation, party of 12. That's the cleaner.
Yep.
Yeah.
When you want the cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
Is the sommelier in?
I mean, the party is the number of dead bodies.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never known him not to be in. That's one of my favorite scenes in John Wick 2. The sommelier. Okay, we are done talking about one thing.
Well, let's do some announcements
should
then.
talk about announcements. We have one on here, 2 on here, and I have one more. So
Cool. Well, I will start then. The Indie Game Development Network Scholarship is going on right now, and in cooperation with Double Exposure, they are sponsoring a scholarship to enable diverse game designers to attend Metatopia.
The scholarship covers travel, lodging, and a conference badge so that designers from underrepresented backgrounds can show off their games and make connections with industry professionals.
The Gem Collective, made up of Gnome Stew, Encoded Designs, and Misdirected Mark Productions, are excited to announce a fund matching drive for the 2019 IGDN Metatopia sponsorship.
Yeah. So the chief, Rob Ebersato, and the Queen Senda together came up with, Phil from Encoded and John and Ange from the Stew, and the rest of us from Encoded, this idea to match donations made to the sponsorship's fundraiser up to a total of $250. So you need to let us know when you donate, though. I have a link in the show notes for this week. And if you do, not only will your donation have double the impact to the scholarship fund, you're also going to get yourself some pretty cool stuff.
Take a screenshot or otherwise document your donation and email the image as a link or an attachment to contact@misdirectedmark.com with the subject 2019 Metatopia Sponsorship Fund Matching - and your name.
Yep. So donations of $5 or more, made pretty much any time right now if you're listening to this, are eligible for the fund matching drive until we hit a total matched funds of $250.
Yep. Because that's how much we have allocated between the three different organizations.
That's how much money we were able to put together.
Mm-hmm. All donations eligible for matching entitle the donor to 10% off the digital copies of Masks, 1001 memorable NPCs for any role-playing game, and Eureka 501 adventure plots to inspire game masters via Engine Publishing via Encoded Designs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, is that how, did I get those vias right? Vis-a-vis?
Yeah, vis-a-vis.
Yeah.
Exactly. The matched donor with the highest amount donated will also receive a free digital copy of any one book from the Encoded Designs catalog, including those Engine Publishing titles.
Mm-hmm. All prizes will be awarded via me, via email after the drive is completed.
So
I know it's me.
Vis-a-vis Engine Publishing, vis-a-vis Encoded Designs, vis-a-vis Phil Vecchione.
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis Vecchione.
I'm going to be the one who's putting in codes, so it'll be me. So anyway, please, I'll just go and say this off script. The reason why you want to support this is that it gives a chance for designers who couldn't normally go to Metatopia, because Metatopia is not inexpensive, right? It gives a chance for a designer to bring their unfinished game to Metatopia and get feedback and support. And to be honest, it's a very good chance that your next favorite game, your next favorite Kickstarter, could be one of these games.
Correct.
I mean, One Child's Heart Camden was a scholarship recipient. He brought One Child's Heart to Metatopia. Like, that is like if you want to know how this works, that's the path.
Yep.
So if you can support it, we highly encourage you to support it. It really does make a difference for game designers. Cool.
Next announcement.
Yeah.
Hey, we got these forums.
Yeah, we're slowly coming up to speed. It's part of now my morning routine to kind of go in and poke around it. Mm-hmm. We still need a little more people to get in there and churn stuff up, but that's okay. We assume there would be a ramp up.
The chief threw up a nice tip earlier today on the Slack. Mm-hmm. Apparently, you can subscribe to different parts of the forums.
Yes.
And when people post in there, then you'll get an email notification.
Yeah.
Which I need to go figure out how to do that, because I tried to get the forums to email me when that happened, but I haven't gotten it quite right yet. So.
Yep. I mean, I have it open pretty much during the day, and I'm kind of poking into it, and just kind of wandering around, adding comments to different things. Craig of the One Name was posting some stuff, asking some Ditch Lily RPG questions. So I was answering some of those. AJ, a friend of ours, started a topic in the Pandas one for topic ideas.
Oh, cool.
I just need to, I don't think I have the admin controls to pin it or put it at the top, but I'm going to ask Rob to do that, because that would be a fantastic place for people to drop off ideas for shows. And as you know, with Pandas, we don't make up our topics. So,
No.
So we need a constant influx of topics at all times.
Not even the last two episodes, which have been lovely to listen to.
Those are fun. I think from time to time, we're going to stop and do a game design one, because it's fun, and I like talking about game design stuff with
the last two episodes have been Ditch Lily episodes, that's why. The Ditch Lily role-playing game episodes.
Mm-hmm. It's a thing.
We might have talked more about that at dinner tonight.
Yeah, it's a thing. Got some cool ideas coming out of dinner.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the one that we don't have on the list, if you like itch.io, Encoded Designs is now on itch.io. You can follow us there. We're putting up our smaller publications onto itch. So things that are up there already are Love and Justice, Rocker Boys and Vending Machines, Hydra Hackers, Turning Point, Quick Start.
I think that's it.
I think that's the first 4. I'm going to also put
Legacy Weapon.
Legacy Weapon, Mark's half-eaten hamburger LARP. I will put the print and play version of Whirlwind Millionaire up there. All of those.
You know, I love that little game.
Whirlwind Millionaire?
Yeah.
I'm quite proud of actually that game. Like it doesn't get nearly enough sales or recognition, but I thought it was a fun.
It is.
I thought it was a fun thing to do, and the cards look like boss as hell. Yeah.
Top notch.
Anyway, itch.io. Follow us on itch.io. Like I said, if you're like, you can find out what we're doing, and we'll start engaging more with it. Like, I'm just getting a handle on how that platform works. So, as we get a better handle on it, we'll probably engage a little into the community space and stuff like that.
Ready to move on to our feature segment?
Ready.
Let's play a game.
Welcome to the game room.
Okay, welcome back. This is our second episode of our exploratory play of For the Queen. And tonight we're going to try to finish the game. I don't know. I'm looking at the stack of cards. I think if we don't delve too deep card to card, we could probably pick up the pace.
Somebody can remind me of what the hell happened last week.
Yep, we're going to talk about that recap in just a second. I'm going to recap the game for people, so if people aren't familiar, and I would think at this point, if you're a fan of this community, this show, or any of us, we probably have beaten everyone over the head with this, but For the Queen is by Diana Jones award-winning game designer Alex Roberts, and it is a story game about a group of people on a perilous journey with their queen, and she has selected those people because she knows you're in love with her. And it is played through a deck of cards with story prompts that you answer, and much of the game is, as we discussed last week, and we'll talk about it a little bit more this week, is really emergent. Like, very little of the game is actually known when you start, and it all arises through play. Now, to recap our game, we talked a bit about our queen, and so our queen here, for those on Twitch, she is somewhat demonic looking. She has very large horns. She is wearing plate armor and has kind of a pretty stern look to her.
She is rather stern.
She's rather stern looking, and we in our discussion, the things that we knew about the queen. Is that her horns are a sign of her social status and caste. Mm-hmm. That having larger horns meant you were more regal. We also know the queen is not perfect by any of imagination. From the things that we learned about ourselves,
Yep.
The queen definitely has some flaws.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of our land, so we know that we are traveling to. And we're traveling to
an ally.
Yeah, we think an ally, right? We're traveling to a place that we believe is our ally, who is also against the people we're fighting, but they are much more powerful than we are, and we are hoping to broker some sort of agreement for aid, based on the fact that in the past the Queen's mother was able to make such a deal. And another thing that we know is that the Queen has had an affair with the current ruler.
Yes.
And their illegitimate daughter, who is the daughter of the Queen, but has never been acknowledged as the daughter of the other ruler. That child is with us.
Yes.
That was answering the question, what have you brought that is endangering?
Yep, the princess is here.
Yes. Okay. So and our situation is that we are on our way to broker this deal. And if successful, we'll have additional military aid that will probably help us in this struggle. And if unsuccessful, this powerful ally is going to kind of just turn their back and leave us to our own devices to solve this war. We don't necessarily know if that means destruction for us.
It'll be bloody.
But it won't be good. Right. And so that's our situation. Our characters, starting with Chris. Chris, what we learned about your character was that you are the major domo.
I am.
You are also the best friend to the queen.
Correct.
Because you are the keeper of her schedule, but you actually have like the most personal interactions with her.
I do. Because we have tea and play stones.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about. Your character.
I mean, I am her prime advisor. I do keep her schedule. I help her keep the kingdom running, and we have tea and play stones twice a week where we talk about anything and everything under the sun. She keeps trying to push me into having a fulfilling relationship because she thinks I work too much, and I think that she is fairly unethical in her dealings with her paramours.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. She has several, which I don't really mind that she has several, but the fact that she lies to a lot of them and does things like sometimes has them killed.
Yes. Which, on the topic of having things killed, Bob, that brings us to your character.
Yes.
Which we have learned is kind of the unwilling assassin. Reluctant assassin.
Yes, I wanted to just hang around in my family's territory and probably farm and just chill. And it turns out that my father was a part-time assassin and bookkeeper for the queen, and it turns out that the aptitude lies within me as well. So the queen decided to leverage that and drew me into some activities that I wasn't really super keen on, but I'm in love with her, and it keeps me close. So I don't have to, pine from afar.
Also, wasn't the queen responsible for the death of your mother?
Yes.
And your father.
And my father. So, yeah.
In fact, she had your father...
She had my father kill my mother because my mother was a distraction from him doing the duties that she wanted him to do. And then... she had someone else kill my father?
I don't think that was ever established how your father died, but it was definitely suspicious.
It's complicated, yes.
Yes. Which leaves me, the scribe. My character is the royal scribe, and is from an order of scribes that has served the royal family like in an unbroken line. We chronicle all of the royal family's activities. And the piece that was revealed during the game last time was that once the queen made our order destroy a set of scrolls that made her look bad, an interaction that made her look unfavorable, to which our order bent and did so. And that has shaken my faith in the queen, because that is to me one of the most sacred things. And now she has she went ahead and did that. But two, it worries me terribly because I am on this journey, and if this journey does not go well, as in it does not result in a treaty, there's a good chance I'm not coming back from this somehow, or I will be asked to destroy the scrolls, which puts me in a impossible situation.
But don't you have the permission to chronicle the entire thing if it goes well?
If it goes well, then I just I have done my job and I come home and turn in my scrolls.
Yeah, so it's super high risk reward.
Yeah, so I mean I have a vested interest in this going well, but I also know, having read all the history, that and this was I think something we talked about in the last session, that I am not convinced this is going to go over as well as she thinks it's going to go over. And so I am increasingly nervous that if this doesn't go well, that this one, the assassin,
is going to murder your ass
if I don't destroy what needs to be destroyed. That is my concern. Okay. So with that bit of background, what we're going to do is jump right back into the game and play for a little while. Then we're going to take a little sidebar, talk about a facet of the game, and then we're going to continue play. And just to remind people, the way that we play is very simple. We draw a prompt card, we read it, we may choose to answer it ourselves, or we can pass it to somebody else and simply say, I'd like to hear your answer for that. And we also have an X card on the table, which we can use to remove any card, whether we don't like the content or whether the question just doesn't fit. I've seen it in play both ways. I've seen it in times where we've taken a card out because of content, and I've seen one where a question came up and it was like looking around the table, it was like, no one can really answer this. Like, this question doesn't really apply to anyone, and we just exit out and keep going. What we are playing for is that there is a card buried in the last third of the deck that says the queen is under attack. Do you defend her?
Yep.
And that when that card comes up in play, we'll signal the end of the game, and we will answer it, and then we'll kind of wrap up our play.
Did you mention if we draw a card, we can pass it to the next player?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You can simply say, "I would like to hear your answer to this," and that person can pass it. That kind of thing. All right. We started with Chris last time. We ended with me at the last session. Or am I off?
No, Chris did start.
Yeah.
You're right.
So,
Yeah.
me.
So we're going to resume play with Chris, and this is Chris's card.
You arranged for the queen to be ambushed on this journey. What did they offer you?
Well, now.
Well, that's not at all what I was expecting.
Hell of a start out of the gate.
Oh, they offered to help me put the princess on the throne and give her all the power.
Oof. Was it our enemy who is going to ambush, or is it the other country?
It's the other country.
Okay. So they would like the queen removed.
How do you feel about betraying your best friend?
So I did it. I feel terrible about it, but I had to do it because it was either that or they were going to kill the princess.
Okay.
Which they know is very important to me.
Interesting.
All right.
And I had to pick.
And terrifying. All right.
All right.
Bob, your card.
Oh. Why are some others at the royal court jealous of your relationship with the queen? There are some people that think it's deeper than it actually is. I mean, she's using me for my skills, and clearly I'm in love with her. That's obvious. I mean, the lowliest, floor scrubber can figure that out. But there are people that think that it's a reciprocal situation, that, I have the queen's favor because we're canoodling, so to speak. That's why.
But you're not canoodling, right?
No.
Do you have any follow-up questions?
I
have one.
Good. Ask yours.
Who was the person that? I mean, there are multiple, but who was the person that you took the most note of that tried to kill you, and why are they still alive?
Who said anything about anybody trying to kill me?
Just Chris is asking, but that's yours to decide. It's your. So, as a reminder, while we are allowed to ask any cards or make any suggestions to the person whose turn it is, ultimately they can choose to work in whatever pieces they want.
As of this moment, I am unaware of anyone having tried to kill me.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Okay. That's all I had there.
Okay. I will draw my card. You saw the queen do something terrible to keep the retinue safe. What was it? Did you come to respect her more or less afterwards? I saw the queen use dark magics, like magics that are no longer allowed in the kingdom, and she did it to destroy an ambush.
What constitutes dark magic in this world?
I think dark magic is because I believe we brought in old gods already. Dark magic is pacts with old gods.
Oh,
so
of course.
I think that she it's a petition grant kind of thing, right? So she made a petition, like you have to give something to get something.
so what did she give?
Did
you see it?
I saw the ritual at a distance, but I don't know what she gave. But you can't do this magic without giving something.
I have many questions.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
I will take a few.
Okay.
Anyway, did you come to
Oh,
respect her more or less afterwards? I No, I don't respect her. I thought this thing was a folly from the beginning. Now, like, one, I'm already worried that I'm not going to live through this. Two, I thought this was a terrible idea to go on this trip. And three, now she's trafficking in like dark magics. Like none of this is good. Like, I am not happy about any part of this.
All right, I have no questions now.
Okay. Yeah, the chat room asked.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Chat room asked, did I write it down? Did I write it down on the scroll?
That's a good question.
For my own safety, I wrote down something. I wrote down a very watered down version of what happened, which also disgusts me about me. Like, I am also...
You compromised your own values.
I compromised my own thing because I'm sure that if the queen had read the scroll and I wrote she was conducting dark magic, she would have made me destroy it. And that situation is an impossible situation for me, so I toned it down to make it look more like she was in reflective meditation or prayer or something. Like, I've compromised my morals. Like, this whole trip is a disaster.
So, how does the queen feel about you now that she knows that you did that?
Yeah, I think, which is even worse, right? Because I think she thinks I'll be okay later if I got to edit some other stuff. Like, I think she read through the scrolls and was like, looked at me and gave me like a little approving nod. Like, nice job. Like, way to keep that cleaned up kind of thing. And now I literally hate myself even more. So.
Did we decide what god she's trafficking with?
I thought we said it was,
I thought
no.
You have the statue of a god.
The drowned god.
The drowned god.
And that's from the other land.
Yeah.
The other land worships the drowned god.
So who?
No,
I need to know who she was trafficking with.
I think it's the Mountain Strangler.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I think the Mountain Strangler
So
is who
good.
put to death the. I could have gone Moloch the Immolator. But
Yeah. I'm good now.
Okay. There you go.
What do you usually do for the royal family? Why does that make you an unlikely choice for this journey? Huh. I mean, I'm a major domo. What else do I usually do? That makes me an unusual choice.
No, I mean...
Well, this is a dangerous journey, right? Like, I'm a quartermaster. Like, I'm an advisor. Like, I don't go out on perilous...
You run the royal court.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here on this journey. I'm not really an outdoorsy, rough and tumbled kind of person. Like, I'm usually, like, getting pedicures and, taking baths and, like, keeping things clean and neat and orderly and, like, planning dinners and stuff like that. Not organizing caravans.
Right. Also, who is running the royal court?
Oh.
Like, the royal court is kind of like your kingdom, right?
Yeah.
Like, who's running your kingdom while you're
Or you
gone?
could just exit completely and walk away.
Yeah, you could kill that card.
Thinking.
If you kill it, I'm going to give you another one.
Why would you give me another one? I answered the question.
Oh no, I'm sorry. If you answer the question, that's fine. But if you X the card,
you asked me a question. I don't have to answer it if I don't want to.
Oh yeah, you don't have to answer.
Yeah, if you answered the card, then
Yeah,
fine.
I answered the card. You asked me a follow-up question.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what? I know. My primary rival and assistant is running the court right now.
Somebody who's bucking for your job.
She's quite good at her job.
Of course. Quite good as in, like, look at me, I can do this job. Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those situations too where, like, I would never get rid of her because she's such an excellent. She's so excellent at what she does.
Wink. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't even do that because I'm not unethical.
Right.
It's probably my downfall. So I'm too honest.
Right.
So she's back there doing my job probably better than I could.
It's awful.
All right.
Robert, your card.
Oh boy. The queen had you punished once. What about the memory of that will stay with you forever? It was the first time that she actually acknowledged my existence after I fell in love with her.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one of those moments where, like, she knows who I am. Like, I was all pie-eyed, and so that's why it sticks out.
So she punished you, and that's why you remember? Because she noticed you?
Because she noticed me. It was the first time that she acknowledged my existence after I fell in love with her.
So
now she knows who I am. Of course, that led to where I am today, which we all know where that is.
Uh-huh.
I was asked a question. Do you administer the matters of state? I'm pretty sure that was for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, actually.
And Senda would like to know what the Queen had me punished for. I was punished because I was interfering in my father's work. I was trying to get my father to come attend to something at home, and of course, the Queen doesn't like people to interfere with.
Which is why your mom was.
Which is why my mother and father are both gone.
Oof. You got some problems, son.
Here's my question. Why didn't she have you killed then? Like, through that punishment, why are you still alive? Because she was already going to kill your mom.
She saw something in me that she felt she could leverage.
Is it possible you might have been promised?
That is a distinct possibility.
Oof.
Like, why would she get rid of you?
Yeah.
Like, you're already her property.
Wow.
All right. Real quick to answer Senda's next question, did I do it to get her attention intentionally? No, actually I didn't. But
she definitely doesn't draw power from suffering. That's a whole other god in this game. We're not trafficking in the Queen of Hoarfrost and Woe, my personal favorite god of all. But
I mean, the Mountain Strangler just erodes things to nothing.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, poor Bob.
Okay. Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay, my card. Oh. Nope, I'm actually just going to X this card out. The Queen is not your queen. Why do you serve her anyway? No, I don't. I'm just going to X it out.
Yep.
I don't like that. It doesn't really fit. The Queen touched you once. What about the memory of that will stay with you forever? So one time I was chronicling, like in the throne room, like with her, and there was a break. No, there was a disagreement with her and a noble, and she immediately summoned me over to review the scrolls. And I was very attentive that day. My description, like my writing, was very neat and clear, and it supported her point. She, was able to show it to the noble and, win her argument. And for that, when she thanked me, she put her hand on top of mine. And I remember that I have never felt skin that soft before. Like, this is somebody who has not ever had to work with her hands, right? Like, she literally doesn't have to write things down. She doesn't wield a weapon in a regular fashion. Like, it was the softest touch that I ever felt.
Why does she wear the armor that she wears then?
I think that armor is hereditary.
Okay.
And it's been like it's the ruler's armor. She doesn't always wear it, but she is absolutely wearing it for this journey. Care for a card?
Yeah.
There you go.
What makes the Queen beautiful in your eyes? I want Bob to answer the question.
It's a regal, like an aura of power and I can't think of the word.
Majesty?
Majesty, thank you. It's just, I just find it super attractive.
No, it's a very powerful aura. Is it also the horns? Is that part of that? I mean...
Oh, that clearly it denotes the lineage.
I don't really need to know your kinks, man.
Well, yeah.
I just need to know why you thought she was beautiful.
I don't need to know them. I just want to know them. Okay, since I think we ran into this before. Since that question got passed to you, I think we just go to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What brings out the queen's kindness? The queen is very fond of art, and so her most kind moments I have seen with artists when she takes a liking to a piece and will invite an artist to dine with her, just so that she can talk about the piece. And they never sit opposite one another. The queen always sits side by side with the piece, so they can talk about it while they dine. But for somebody who is so busy and at times, I think, as we've talked about, so ruthless, the times that she spends appreciating art are the times that I have seen her be the most connectable, the most kind.
Cool.
We had a question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure who it was for, though. Does the queen draw power from suffering? Oh, you already answered that, right?
Yeah, I said we don't want to. We're not going down the road of Hoarfrost and well.
Okay. The queen knows something about you that no one else does. What is it? I mean, I don't have a good answer, so I'm just going to exit.
Okay, that's good. New card.
I mean, I'm sure there are things that she knows about me that nobody else does, but I don't think anything that's that important.
Yeah, you don't have to have a reason for exiting.
What do you do for the queen that anyone else can do, and why does she make you do it? Oh, that's easy. I take care of her schedule. There's lots of people that could take care of her schedule.
Sure.
There's, that job is not that. I mean, there are a number of people who are also qualified to be her advisor.
Mm-hmm.
But I do it because she trusts me.
Right.
Because we're not just work. It's not just a working relationship. We're actually friends.
Was tending her schedule like the first job you had when you were younger?
No, actually, when she was younger, I was also part of the royal court. We grew up as friends.
Okay. So
it's just a lifelong friendship that is built on, commonality and trust.
What happened to the previous scheduler for you to get the job?
That was my dad.
Okay, so it passed hereditarily to you. Okay.
Since there's a lot of hereditariness in this court.
Absolutely.
He just died. He was old.
Mm-hmm. And then you picked up the mantle.
My mother's still alive, but she's also older now. That's why she makes me do it, because we're such good friends and she trusts me.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Robert?
Okay. How does the queen remind you of her status while on the journey? She knows this is, well, let's put it, this trip is very important to her. So she makes no bones about it. If anything starts to create a slowdown, or something comes up that's not conducive to getting where we need to be, she will lay down the Queen's Law. She will be like, hey,
She'll make you draw a line across somebody's throat.
So far not, but I would not put it past her if something came up.
What's the Queen's Law in this situation? Like, how is laying down the law done by our queen?
She barks orders. She, points out things to her guards and such to take care of that.
Is she kind? Is she mean? Does she have people whipped?
She's just stern about the whole thing. Like, let's keep this moving is the impression that you get. Like, don't cause a delay.
So she's not. Is she acting erratic or nervous because of the situation? Is she acting out of character? Is she still calm and in control?
It feels to me like she's just in a hurry.
Okay.
She wants to get there and get this done.
All right.
Hang on.
You're typing things in. Phil is typing things into the show notes
Yes.
for us to talk about
And
later. I
Rob's
assume.
question-
I was answering a question in the chat room.
Rob's question: have I had to act as the Queen's enforcer yet this trip? Not yet. Not yet.
Okay. Ready for my question? There is a part of you that does not want peace in this land. Why are you attached to the war?
Douchebag.
For completely selfish reasons. The war is exciting. If we were in a time of peace, my job as scribe is excruciatingly boring. And I know this from reading the scrolls from the past, because we have been at war for a long time, right? So I have read the scrolls from the past, and like scrolls during peacetime are just the death of anything interesting. It'll just be toiling. Like, at least with this, there's intrigue, there's drama, there's like all of that, and
Nothing to chronicle when it's
I'm
peaceful.
not so attached that like I would sabotage anything, but I know if we achieve like a lasting peace, my days will be far less exciting than going forward than they have been to today.
Are you the person that squashed my battle plan that could have like gotten us an upper hand or a possible victory in the war?
I feel like
Because we don't know why.
I feel like I wrote it down in a kind of negative like tone, and that when she went back to read it and reflect upon it, she was like, this idea doesn't actually sound that
I
good.
hate you.
Yeah, I don't think I did that consciously, but I think that yes, I'm like, I know when you were giving the plan that I was just kind of like and just like wrote it in.
Have I read that plan since then?
I don't know. Did you read the scroll?
Yes.
Okay.
I hate you.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not sure I like me at this point. Yeah.
All right.
Chris.
All right. What do you do that pleases the queen on this journey? I make sure that we still have time, because I know she's in a hurry and whatnot, but I make sure that she takes the time to relax. And
Okay.
we have tea, and we play stones, and we talk about everything. That is the thing that I do. I also, any problems that pop up, I try to get out in front of them and handle them so that she doesn't have to.
The less she yells, the...
Yeah, I mean, there's that.
you don't let the knucklehead stuff reach her tent.
Correct.
Yeah.
I have a couple of scribes and underlings that make sure I get them information before she does.
Which I think is perfectly expected, right? Like, I think she expects you to handle, like...
Absolutely.
It's part of my job.
Why don't we finish this round and do our sidebar?
Sure.
Okay. Up.
And some good questions here. The queen lights a fire in you. What is it? It's the desire to please her. I'm so in love with her that while she has done some terrible things that directly impacted me and makes me do things that I don't want to do, I want to please her so badly.
What is the worst thing you've ever done that she's asked you to do that you did to please her?
I killed someone who probably wasn't 100% deserving.
What is the one thing that she's ever asked you to do that you didn't do?
She didn't directly ask me to do it. She asked me if I would have, if she had asked me. She said, would you have killed your father if I asked you to? I did not answer that question. I don't think she was super pleased with me at that moment either.
Has the queen asked you to deal with one of the others if X situation happens?
Maybe.
Oh, man. Also, there's a question. Isn't the major domo supposed to polish the queen's horns? Of course I polish the queen's horns. The queen does my hair sometimes, too.
Yeah.
We're friends.
We're friends. What are friends?
Yeah.
Friends? Polishing horns, pillow fights, the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That was Bob, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's me, and then we're going to take our first sidebar. The Queen thinks more highly of you than you do of yourself. How do you know this? I think she always asks to review my writings. I've seen the Queen play stones. Like, her memory is fine. Like, she asks often to reread things that I have written, like at the end of the day or the next day kind of thing, because I think she likes the way I write her. And I am currently hating myself.
Yep.
So I think the thing that I kind of limp along with, that keeps my self-loathing from pushing me into a very dark place, is that she does like what I write, and she likes the way that I depict her in the Chronicles.
How do you feel about your burgeoning career as a fiction writer?
Again, full of self-loathing. Like, I feel awful. I don't know if other people in my order have gone under similar trials or things. I'm almost too terrified to even float that question out to somebody in my order. Like, say, have you ever edited, a thing that the Queen's done? Like, why would you ask that, right?
Yeah.
So, no, it all feeds into this thing where, it all feeds into this horrible loop where I have compromised myself, but the Queen seems to like me more for it.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that the Queen doesn't actually like me. She likes what she thinks I can do for her.
Mo's got an awesome question for you.
Have you lost faith in the sanctity of the scrolls?
I have a lot of questions now about the sanctity of the scrolls. I do, because when I was younger, I was like, no, this is like, you never waver. Like, this is the word as you see it is written to the page with no interpretation, cold and dispassionate. And
I'm enjoying the crumbling of your religious faith.
Yes.
And I have done it, so I can only now wonder who before me has also crumbled, which then leads to how reliable are these scrolls.
And really, is it the Queen's fault then, or is it your order's fault?
I think
you don't have to answer that question.
I don't know, right? Like, I think the whole system is probably bad on some level. I think that the Queen has purposely asked, which is what she should not have done. But I think she may have asked based on the way I write her, that maybe this is like an acceptable thing.
All right, with that, let's take a break.
Your situation reminds me of a quote from The Untouchables, which we can get to later, or I can drop it real quick.
I mean, it's a break.
We're in the break, so this is perfect time to do it.
At one point, Elliot Ness says, "I have forsworn myself. I have broken every law I have sworn to uphold. I have become what I beheld, and I am content that I have done right."
Yeah, the problem is that Elliot Ness in The Untouchables was doing the right thing.
He was doing the right thing.
Yeah, I'm not.
You not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
He was taking illegal actions for the right reasons.
Yes.
You were just taking.
I'm just sliding down a slope.
Yeah, actions against your conscience.
Yep.
So.
By the way, we should talk about another show in the Misdirected Mark family of podcasts, the Misdirected Mark Productions Network, the CypherSpeak podcast, which is an engaging discussion that covers the evocative and inclusive settings of the Cypher system. Darcy Ross and Troy Pitchelman are entertaining co-hosts who offer GM advice and ideas for use in your games, in and surrounding Monty Cook games in the Cypher system. It's so much fun. I can't wait. There were some pictures of Troy at Gen Con, and he was looking pretty good.
He's looking quite well.
Yeah, for a person that just had to,
got upgraded.
Yeah, upgraded with the replaced kidney.
Yes.
So we're glad that you're feeling better, Troy. We hope that trend continues, and we hope to hear you back on the airwaves soon.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else from the chat room? I mean, the chat room's so engaged in the game these days.
Well,
It's
Blake
just
Ryan
been
has a
tons of
question
fun.
for you.
Yeah.
Did you take this quest on because you felt things changing between you and the Queen?
Yes. Because of the princess.
Yep.
Like a chance to get away.
No.
No. A chance to keep an eye on her.
Right. Was there something else that we wanted to do in this?
Yep,
break?
we're going to sidebar and talk a little bit about the queens.
Yes.
Because when we set up the game, Bob picked out the queen, but we really didn't get a chance to kind of look through and talk about the queen cards, because the queen cards have a very big impact on the game.
you talk about queens.
Bob did the right thing.
Chris
in
and I are
leaving
gonna-
his
Yes.
leaving his microphone here, so they didn't have to hear him in
You
the bathroom.
leave the
with his
lab on the table.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which we'll talk about that in the after show, how
so
that didn't occur.
I don't know if you got a chance to look through all these. So
I did. These cards are wonderful.
Okay, so
By the way,
here's the
these are
things.
great cards, everyone.
Here's what I want to say about the queen cards. I think the art direction for these are actually pretty brilliant. I think they span they span a number of different styles. Okay.
Yep.
You don't have to show them all. Like,
I'm showing them.
Okay.
Keep talking.
I think they span a number of different styles, which I really like. I also think that there are a lot of non-traditional images for what I would consider the queen.
Correct.
And I say that not as the demonic ones, like the one that's on what is it, like the one that's on the inside cover, like the Dark Queen. Like that is actually a pretty fantasy tropey kind of thing.
Yes.
But there are
definitely people of Indian descent, people of Asian descent, people of European descent, old, young.
Yeah, some not attractive.
Beautiful, yes.
Yeah.
Well, whatever version of beauty that you would consider.
Traditionally,
all different versions of people.
Exactly. Which I think is really good.
Some ostentatious, some classic.
Yes. Some historic.
Yes.
So I think what's really interesting about
some evil looking.
Yeah. I mean, the one we picked is also not that friendly looking.
Correct.
So the Queen card is an inspiration, and without a doubt, the choosing of the Queen card flavors the game that you're playing. And I think what's really interesting is that I suspect a lot of thought went into finding these pieces. Like I think these pieces are very carefully selected. I don't think anything haphazard was done.
Of course not.
In picking these pieces. And what I like about them is that when you couple them with the cards, sometimes it makes an answer really easy. Like with our queen, like show us a time the queen was very cruel. Like when you look at that card, like you're like, oh, I can probably think of a dozen times she was very cruel.
Yeah, except we've not played that trope out.
No, I think we often play against trope. But I think that I think the one to me that was really interesting based on our queen card was the time the one where I talked about the artist. Like when is the queen very kind? Because that card doesn't make her look very kind.
Correct.
I'll give one more example. There is a Asian-inspired card of a woman that looks like she's in a kimono. And she's holding a bird and she has a dog by her side. And when we were at QCC, this was the queen we were playing in a game with Todd Crapper, myself, Schmitty, Rob, and Senda. And Todd Crapper went up first, and we were like, he answered his question, and I don't even remember what the question was, but part of his answer was, I'm the dog. Right? Just inspired because it was on the card.
Yeah.
And Schmitty then was like, I'm a bird. And very quickly, none of us, within that first round, none of us were human. Like, these cards have a very unique way of kind of coupled with the open-endedness of the questions and the way the game emerges during play. The cards have this very interesting effect on the game. Now, I will say the other thing, though. I've played 5 or 6 games of this, and I have not seen certain cards come up, which is interesting. Like, I'm going to start pulling some of these when I play future games. Like, the most common ones is the demonic one, this evil kind of looking one. I've seen, the Dark Queen, right? Very popular. Like, the ones that I have not seen come out to be very popular, like I'm gonna really gonna just kind of push, like in the next time I play, just to push another one of these cards out, or even drop a couple cards out of the deck just to force.
I mean, I like the idea of using a random queen card.
A random queen card would be a perfect, a perfectly good hack for this, right? Like keep the queen cards face down and just flip one over. The other thing I like, and again, this is our sidebar, so we won't take too long for it. The other thing I like is that in terms of extendability, like making other decks of queen cards, like for instance, all of these queen cards look historic or fantasy / medieval kind of, right? Like there's people in, you know, maybe this is like a Renaissance outfit. This one is like, you know, this one's definitely Renaissance-ish. This one's like Middle Ages, right?
Yeah, they're all in that.
They're in that kind of fantasy medieval bracket.
Medieval or Renaissance period. They
Right.
all look that. And even if you put the fantasy skin on it, they were all in that medieval Renaissance period.
Exactly. So I could see removing this deck of queen cards
And putting in
sci-fi ones.
Yeah.
Like and then this game has the same set of questions, but now it's like a very different story.
I mean, I'm looking for where's the Titania Fae queen card, right? Like that's not in there.
Right.
There's nothing. Well, I mean, I don't think there's anything there. Maybe that one with the animals inspires some sort of non. But yeah, you could. There's a lot of things that you can do with those queen cards.
Yeah. I think like I would really like to see a science fiction / science fantasy one. I think that you could use the exact same set of questions,
just different pictures of queens,
and you would have a very different game if we were talking about light speed travel to our, you know.
If you wanted to, you could also combine that with like here's a card of a queen, and then here's just like a picture of sort of the setting, and then you've just constrained the setting.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then you could do Barsoom.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. Then you can have I always forget her name, but whoever.
Deja Thors.
Yeah, thank you, Deja Thors. Thanks.
So yeah, so I wanted to just bring up the queens because while we talked about the emergent quality of play through the cards, I wanted to mention how the queen kind of sets a tone subtly. Like whether we lean into the trope that the queen represents, or whether we break from that trope, there's an inescapable. The queen becomes an inescapable part. That card becomes an inescapable part of the game. Like you are always playing into or away from it, and I think that's interesting because it gives you a very interesting starting place.
Two fascinating things in the chat room. Rob Everzato, the chief, he was like, replace the queen cards with Dixit cards or something like that. That'd be fascinating.
That'd be interesting
because then that would turn into some sort of tone piece at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly could run this game without the queen cards and just go get a picture off of Pinterest. Like just how I do the GM Eidolon for Swords Without Master. Like here's our queen, right? Space Queen.
Well, if you use a Dixit card, then it's like the queen is the tone of the card.
Yeah. The queen is like a soft meadow.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Or this weird, strange, impressionistic painting, which a lot of the Dixit ones are anyway.
Everway would be another way to do that. The old Everway cards.
Yep. I don't know that.
Oh, that's a very short-lived game in the 90s. You would have dug that game.
Evil John suggested using modern-day queens and work through the moral quandary of a monarchy in modern-day society.
Yeah. I mean, one of the queens comes really close to that. One of them looks like Queen Elizabeth. Like,
yes.
Like you could actually do that. So yeah. That's what the queen card does for the game, right? The queen card sets a tone that we either actively work to build towards, or we start to subvert those tropes, which is fine because I think one of those qualities of being a good story player is knowing when to lean into a trope and when to subvert a trope, because both of like you can't always just subvert tropes, right? So sometimes you lean in, sometimes you subvert, and like kind of knowing when to switch.
So the thing to remember is if you're going to add another card for accent, so what the queen card does is it provides some semblance of a constraint. That's the point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And direction.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you add other things to it, like you are once again then putting on constraints and direction. So That's just the thing to think about when if you're going to decide to hack this game, and people out there in listener land, like totally worthwhile to do. Sounds like a fun idea.
Yeah, when we get to the end, if we have time, we can talk about other hacks, but I think like a bunch of them we've just covered. Which is like to get all over changing out the queen cards. I would love, I don't think they'll do it, but I would love if Evil Hat released the InDesign file for this, or if they don't release it, if they would at least support this game on drive-through cards. Because this is very much a place where drive-through cards with POD card. One, because I think they can do this size, but with POD cards, I could buy a set of queens.
Yep.
Right? Like, they could release, like, sci-fi queens.
Yep.
And I could just order them POD.
Yep.
And maybe they're going to do it for reals with bigger expansions, but I think you could open this up.
It's the exact same conversation we had last week.
Right. I think you could open this up on drive-through.
Because you said that, and I'm like, why would they do that when they could just put another little box together and sell that?
They could. It's just that, you have to lay out a lot of money for that. And then the question is,
how well
based on how well it's selling, it's probably worth doing.
Probably.
Is as a full publication, but it would have been a very easy thing, like if this wasn't the hit it was, to support it in the POD card community.
Yep.
All right, ready to move on?
All right.
Yeah. Chris, you ready?
Yeah, let's finish this game.
Back to the front.
You saved the queen's life once. How? Oh, I know. Our rivals tried to have the queen poisoned via her food, via a chef.
Yes.
And I was just making my routine check going through our staff to see who was around and who was on, and I noticed somebody new. And I ferreted out the plot and stopped her from eating the food right before she ate the food. That was poisoned.
Yeah.
That would have killed her. Unfortunately, I didn't stop. I didn't stop her her taste tester from doing it
Who
beforehand.
is no longer her taste tester.
Yeah. The poison was a slow acting poison. It was cleverly done.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I saved the queen's life.
All right.
Excellent. Why do you think? So, first question: was this during the trip or was it before the trip?
That was before the trip.
Okay. Why do you think somebody was trying to kill her before the trip?
I mean, without the queen, the country goes into a
Anarchy?
panic. Yeah, I mean, the princess is young.
Yeah.
Not really quite ready to lead. It would be bad if
She's not ready yet.
she's not ready yet. She's only 16.
Gotcha.
So that would be a huge problem for the kingdom, and a very giant advantage for our enemies.
And as we said, it is also, if her heritage came out, is also a weakness for the current ruler in power in the other country. So,
Although then,
another faction within the country might benefit from all of that. Okay, Bob, are you ready?
Absolutely.
What's the question say?
It's what do you do for the queen that no one else can do?
I mean, there's the obvious answer.
I'm gonna dump this one.
Yeah, dump it.
Yeah, that's fine. I didn't think that was that interesting.
Easy answer. Why do you think the queen trusts you enough to bring you on this journey? She knows I'm in love with her. She knows how madly, deeply in love with her I am. And she's using that to her advantage.
Does she actually care about you?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. And at the moment, I don't care.
That's fair.
So it was asked, was the poisoner the other administrator? No, she's good at her job.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with her other than she's a threat to your job.
We caught the poisoner and they were executed terribly. It was not pretty. We didn't ferret out the entirety of the spy ring though.
Right. Just the person who was responsible for.
And one person above that. But
that's not.
Supposedly they're all that was all there was. I don't think so.
You are considered beautiful by almost everyone you meet. How does the queen make you question that perception?
This is the first time we've indicated how or what you look like at all.
Yes. I think that, I guess, so I am youthful and handsome, probably
So dreamy.
probably in that kind of distinguished scholarly kind of way, right? Like a little bit of gray hair, that kind of thing. The queen makes me question that because the queen constantly says things like, oh, I didn't realize you were there. Like, because I'm always there journaling for her, like, she has become almost blind to my presence.
Sure.
Which makes me think that maybe I'm not as attractive because the queen certainly has never, the queen has not only not commented on it, but frequently doesn't see me, which is how I saw the dark ritual. Because she literally did not see me coming down the road as she was finishing the ritual, because I'm basically invisible to her. Yeah.
Before you move on to the next one, Senda has an awesome question.
Yeah, it was a
for
good
you
question.
Guys. My love for the queen is a bit unnatural. Are any of you concerned that the queen has used her dark arts to cause this infatuation?
I don't think she has at all.
No, I don't think she has, because the price one pays for dark art, like the dark arts don't traffic in minor wards and charms. Like when she destroyed that ambush, like some calamity is going to fall on some part of the country. Like some region is going to like lose all their crops, or some place is going to get swallowed into a hole in the ground. Like,
so what you're saying is that I'm not worth the price she would have had to pay?
True.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Not only that, why bother pay that price for a loyal servant when, you know, she can just use her charms to acquire that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that that magic is not trivial.
Yep.
And it's awful.
Where are we at? Is it me?
Yeah, I think it's you.
So here's my suggestion. If we don't get this, the queen comes under attack card in the next 3 cards, I think we should just pull it out.
I think if we just answer questions really quickly,
All right.
there aren't actually that many cards left.
All right.
So, oh, never mind.
Never mind.
There you go.
The queen is under attack. Do you defend her?
We'll go right around the table in the same order.
No.
Really? Won't defend your best friend? Why not?
Because the daughter's more important.
Like you did try to arrange an ambush.
I still have that deal.
Yeah. So.
And that's never come back up. Like, I'm still worried about it.
Wow. Okay. I think I know the answer to this.
To my dying breath.
Right.
I have to.
Hopelessly in love.
I loves her.
My turn?
Yeah.
I do defend her.
Why?
Because I'm a scribe and I cannot fight. If I'm lucky, I won't survive this encounter. Like, I will rush out there with dagger drawn.
But you said you defended her.
Yeah, I will run out and run
Get
headfirst.
himself killed.
Oh.
I will run
the
headfirst
easy out.
into those warriors.
Because you're so...
Because what the hell is left for me at this point?
That's fair.
I might as well... I might as well just throw myself at it and see what happens. Like, I'm pretty sure that any trained mercenary could cut me down. So yes, I do defend her, and just like I'll die.
All right.
That is for the queen.
That is for
That's
the
how
queen.
you play the game. That's it.
Yeah,
It
that's
just
it.
ends
That's
like
the
that.
end.
That's it. That's the end.
Senda has one more question for me. She wants to know why I am worthy of the queen using her dark arts to make sure I cannot betray her. I'm sure that my humble self doesn't know the answer to that question. Perhaps there's something deeper that the queen knows.
Yeah. Cool. We can we can move into the debrief.
That's it, huh?
Yeah, that's it.
Anticlimactic?
That's the question you have to answer. Like, do you defend her?
After all of that other stuff comes
There's
out,
nothing
you have
else. Just that one question.
Yeah.
I mean, follow-up questions can be asked by the other players, obviously.
And now I'm just thinking about how I feel about that.
Because it doesn't complete a story.
I mean, it does. Just not the story I was expecting.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, the story is really about your relationship with the queen.
Correct.
Right.
Not about the story of this journey.
Correct. The journey is just this convenient backdrop to create a situation to put us in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, really the question we wanted to know is who are you,
Mm-hmm.
and ultimately what's your relationship to the queen,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which I think was an interesting discovery.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're the queen's best friend, but you're also like the guardian of the queen's daughter, and
Yeah.
ultimately, when push comes to shove, like
What do?
you defend the like defended the queen's daughter.
That's why I'm not. That's why I'm not like this is stupid. I'm like thinking. I'm like
Right. It wasn't where you thought it was going to go.
It makes perfect sense now. Like these stories are about the characters.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even necessarily about us interacting with each other or anything. We're
No.
just three random characters that happen to be in the same situation.
Yep.
It just tells the three different stories about us and our relationship with the queen.
Yeah.
And they barely cross over.
I mean, they
You could
can.
literally play this game by yourself,
You totally could.
and it would be perfectly wonderful and fun.
You totally could play it as a one-player journal. In fact, it's really funny because it's marked as 2 to 4 players, but much like the Beast, like you totally could play this as a one-player chronicle, and just each day flip over a card, write a couple paragraphs about it. And,
Oh, yeah, you can totally do that.
and just make a whole narrative. You okay?
Yeah, I'm just thinking.
You're processing?
I'm also reading.
Okay, that's
yeah,
fair.
Ange is discussing some of her experiences with it, and she said that every time she's played it, it almost always defaulted to determining whether the queen lived or died based on the number of who defended and who didn't.
Yeah, but that's not part of the rules, right?
Not really.
Yeah, so it does. That's not even.
That's,
That's a cool little hack. I
Yeah,
like that hack.
It's a cool hack to decide. Like,
Yeah, but that's the game, right? Like,
Yep.
yeah, here it is in the summary of the rules. Continue answering questions, passing, Xing out questions until the queen is under attack card is drawn. Each player should answer that question in turn, then the game is over.
yeah. I mean, I like that hack. That's an interesting hack to.
Sure.
But that'll tell a different story too. Like, I now understand now that I've played all the way through it, like what this game is really all about, which is about that relationship between you and the queen.
Yeah. And in some ways, it's a relationship between you and the queen. It's also the discovery of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not a thing you go into the game knowing. Because we didn't draw cards
Well,
for what role.
We are creating and then exploring a character.
Yep.
Yeah. All in a game that has a minimal ramp up, no prep, small form factor, and we're going to talk about this in just a moment when we unpack the game a
I'm
little.
so ready to talk about like some of the hacks that go along with.
Oh
this.
yeah, I want to talk a little bit about pacing because one of the really cool things about this game is that we had said it plays in either an hour or it can play in a half hour. And there are two components that actually control the pacing of this game.
It's where you put the attack card, because you can put it in halfway through.
Yep.
Or you can shuffle it in the back half of the deck.
Exactly.
Which is why it's a half an hour to anywhere between an hour and up to an hour and 20, or up to 90 minutes about.
Up to
Maybe
2
an hour.
hours.
2 hours, yeah.
Yeah. So it plays between. So if you're okay, we'll transition into that topic. So pacing of the game, right? This is a game that I will say is not a. I don't think it's a short game because that half hour is also dependent on how many people are playing.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing, the game is about emergent story.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to get a compelling story and a meaningful answer to that question, there is, and I don't know the number, but you need to have had experienced X number of cards.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just don't have a lot of material to work from.
I mean, honestly, after the first half of the deck, I had enough to answer the question. It took you a little longer.
It's funny because last week when we left the game, I was totally not going to defend her.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we got into kind of talking about how my own morals have been compromised and stuff like that, in the last couple rounds, I had the idea like, no, of course I'm going to defend her. I can't possibly survive this encounter.
I mean, if you didn't defend her and she died, though, you could have found a way to redeem yourself by actually telling the true chronicle.
Right, but I think I had lost more faith than that.
That's
I'd started.
fine.
I think those follow-up questions that people asked about, like, do you have any faith that the order is not compromised? Like, I think led to a massive crisis of faith.
Because your recapitulation on the back end of it could have been like, well, do you defend the queen or not? I'm like, no, I don't defend her because then when she's dead, I can tell the true chronicle and then go reform my order.
Right.
Like, you could have had that moment.
Right. I think and I think my fear was at that point was like, does any monarch ever let this happen?
I'm not even saying that like what you chose was
no. I think there's options, right? Like, I wasn't locked on a path. I had come up with what I thought was going to be the story beat that I liked, and I liked the idea again of when talking about subverting tropes. Like, the obvious draw was looking like, oh, he's not going to defend her.
Do I defend? Like, for me, like, do I defend my best friend?
Right, or protect, protect.
Honestly, I probably would have defended my best friend, except for that one card that said that I had set up an ambush. Right. And then the reason that behind that was because the princess was in danger.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was like the true deciding factor, because that was more important.
Yeah. So when we left off at the last session, I wasn't sure that I would defend her, even though I was in love with her, until I got to a couple of cards ago where it was like, like I really love her, and that's all that matters. Like that helped define how deep that was, and I'm like, yeah, of course now no matter what, I'm gonna step in and defend her.
Right. I would be very curious, and I may just I may ping Alex tomorrow or something. From all the times that she play tested it, I wonder if she knows what that X is. Like, what is the sweet spot for the number of cards that you have to hit in order to have an emerging story? Because the thing about this game is, we talked about the pacing of where the card goes, which ultimately controls how many cards can be drawn. And then we talked about a little bit last week about how many follow-up questions you ask also determines the length of the game. But the other piece of this is how many players are there. Because if we're playing, if we're playing 6 players, which this game is 2 to 6 players, if we're playing 6 players and we all have to get to 6 cards, right? Then it's 36 cards have to go around the table. Whereas if the 3 of us are playing and 6 cards is the magic number for enough material, then we only have to play 18 cards.
So I think the thing that you would have to assume with this game design, I mean, really, if you want to, the bare minimum amount of questions is what's half the deck divided by 6. And that's what they figured out to be the sweet spot. Actually, they probably figured that out to be lower than the sweet spot, because you're probably assuming there's going to be more questions asked if there's more people.
Right.
So
I'm now actually curious. Like, I will probably ping Alex and ask her if they did the math.
I would imagine
on the cards.
I'd imagine that the sweet spot is probably half the deck
divided by number of players,
plus an extra question for each card.
Okay.
Because that will probably give you the minimum amount of information needed to create.
I'm super curious.
Yeah. Feel free to count that up. Like,
I'm gonna count that out.
That would be my.
I don't have to count it out. 46 prompt cards.
So 23. 23 divided by 6 is what, 3? Not even 4. About 4.
So about four cards.
So then 8. So then really about 8 questions per person.
Okay. So
I think that's probably the bare minimum that you need.
Yeah. So so again, when you're considering this game in terms of pacing, right? So let's say I'm bringing this game to a game day, or I'm playing it between sessions or whatever. The factors that you have to start considering is where do you place the card? Because somebody might be like, oh, to play a super short game, you're going to place the card really high. But there's a threshold of questions that you have to get in order to be emergent enough.
And they obviously think it's 24 cards.
Right.
Because that's where you put it if you want the short game.
Yeah. So, and then the other piece to that is, if you're trying to run this game in a shorter time frame, you have to kind of hold down the additional questions.
Well, you can. So there's a. Can we talk about hacks? Because I want to talk about all the hacks that you can put on this game.
Yeah. Is there anything else we want to say about about pacing?
No, I mean the game barely has a pacing, and like the pacing mechanic is the thing that you said, but it doesn't really have a pacing mechanic. You can ask as many questions as you want.
Correct, but I'm saying if you're playing it under a time constraint, like we weren't playing it under a time constraint, we literally could have gone to an episode 3 if we wanted to.
We could have. We also could have played the whole game in one session.
We could have played it faster, right? So you can play it faster by raising the card, and cutting down on
Yeah, we
secondary
I
questions.
actually think if you take our playtime, we played this game for about an hour and a half.
Yeah, which would be like spot on. Again, but with 6 players, like this is a function of like when you add more players to the game, there are even more side questions,
Yes.
right? Like, so this is the hey, as you're studying for your CPAM, this is what they call the clinking glasses equation. The more people you add, the more potential communication channels you add, which
Correct.
actually raises complexity.
Yep.
So in a 6-player game, the short version of this game, you have to really rigidly control the number of side questions.
Which is why I was like, it probably, if you want the bare minimum, it's every card and then 1 question per card.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
so those are ways, if you're worried about pacing, those are ways that you can kind of modulate the speed of this game. Okay, cool. Now we can round this out and start talking about hacks. And
So
stuff
real
like that.
quick, to start the topic of hacks, they got an SRD thing going, and you can submit a request to basically add your hack to the
Oh, that's cool.
to the kind of like Forged in the Dark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
This is it's called Descended from the Queen. So and
you go.
hacks of this game are Descended from the Queen.
Nice.
And
I
there's
like
a game called Reunion, which is in playtesting status. It's about a group coming back together after a long time apart. They were once close, but went their separate ways. Groups like sorority sisters, gaming groups, mutant squads, teenage mech pilots, whatever. They use 2 types of questions to establish shared history, as well as how their characters have changed since. And they use tools like the X card to help care for themselves and each other, and tell the story of who we were then and who we are now.
Oh, that's neat.
So that's an interesting twist.
That is an interesting twist.
I very much would like I would like several rethemings of this.
Yeah. So just for hacking this particular game,
Yep.
to put a little bit more whatever around it, like 1, limit the number of questions that are able to be asked. You can also limit who can ask the questions.
Sure, like maybe
Like,
only
the person to your
player-
left can ask you
yes.
a maximum of 2 questions. Will
Yeah.
change the length of the game and actually pace it out better.
Yep.
If you needed something more controlled like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit on the important part, right? If you need that kind of
Yeah.
pacing.
Yeah.
Or you can be like, everybody at the table can ask 1 question. In
Yep.
in table order. Like
Yeah.
these are hacks that you can apply to this game.
Yep.
You don't have to.
No, you just play it.
But they will change. That will change the way that the game plays, because the person who asked the question, the person can ask a follow-up question to that question, or ask a totally brand new question. But what that does is it changes kind of like, you can't ask a question and a follow-up question. You can only ask the question that you want to ask. It'll change kind of what you're asking. It's a fascinating idea.
Oh, good.
Go ahead.
Oh, Senda's talking about having a Ditch Lily version of this. I think we were just messing around with ideas, but I like the idea. I don't remember what Senda's exact design was, but I like the idea of the Queen deck being different versions of Lily. So at all the different phases that the band was in, like her No Doubt ska phase, her Lilith Fair acoustic guitar, peasant skirt kind of phase, her total grunge, whatever, and then that Lily, like you all are either band members or like roadies or whatever, but that Lily is the one like that you play out, like, oh, this is punk rock Lily, like this is Riot Girl style Lily. Yeah, and then Senda saying like at the end, do you stay with the band? Yeah. Right, like that would totally be fun. That might be a fun. I'm not even saying might. That would be a cool spinoff. Like I would totally play that.
There was a simple hack from the chat room from a couple of different people of that last question. Do you defend her? Just tacking on the question why. In addition to that, some people kind of do it automatically.
Yeah,
but it's not there, so it's not implicitly.
Yeah, you're right.
asked.
I mean, I was very curious when you said no. I was like, no, I need show me your math.
Tell me why. Show me your math.
I want receipts.
Yeah.
The thing with Ange, where Ange was like, the number of people that defend her determines whether she lives or dies.
Yeah,
that's a cool hack.
That's a
cool hack. Very cool hack. If the majority defend her, she lives. If the majority don't, she dies.
There's a few hacks for the end of the game like that. Like, you could put any number of questions, a series of questions in the back end of that. Like, tell me about your character 3 years from now.
Yeah.
Like, well,
or
now,
if in fact, when you defend her, do you live or die?
that too. That is the easy question. But that
Oh yeah.
that like the time jump after the attack is an interesting, like, well, now you get to tell the story of what has happened since then.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. if you want that. But that's not, and that still actually sits in the theme of the game, which is about you and your relationship to the queen.
Sure. I mean, there were ones where people have talked about, like, I think I played one where I didn't defend the queen, and my argument was, like, in the ensuing chaos, I slip off. Oh, I was the executioner.
Yeah.
I was the executioner who was forced to murder his boyfriend because he wrote a poem that made fun of the queen. And so I was like, nope, I don't defend her, and I leave, and I think I went to a place that he once wrote about in a poem.
Yep. The waterfall.
The waterfall, yeah. That was a super good game. It was.
Here's the
that game.
Here's the highly complicated hack from the discussion that spawned from last week.
Okay.
This game is not a scene-setting game,
Correct.
but it could be.
Yeah, you could start to structure a whole meta story.
Here's the way that I have thought to structure this as a scene-setting game, because you have characters. Characters just get established throughout play.
Yeah.
There's the queen. There's the character that you are. There's whatever side characters that you come up with. What I would do is after everybody gets a certain amount of cards, and you have to change it for the number of players. And I'm not sure what that math quite is yet. But after you get a certain number of cards, you keep one of those cards because you need to establish some things before you can set a scene.
Okay.
In my opinion. So like, if we were playing the three of us, I would have said after each of us had had three questions asked to us, then we keep a card. And then after any question at any point in time that comes up, anybody can turn in that card and set a scene based on the question.
Interesting.
And then what happens with that person gets to set the scene. The other two people get to choose characters to be in that scene. And then you are allowed to, then the person who has the card, they get to say, this is the question that I want to answer throughout play. And then you start playing until that question is answered.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's a fun way to deepen the
it deepens it.
the story.
It ties into the game itself because you can only do it so often based on the cards.
Sure.
There's not an infinite amount of scene setting that occurs. And then we only focus on those questions that are really provocative to people.
I could see a hack of this, very minor hack, where one player. So here's my setup: the queen is dead. One player plays the Royal Inquisitor.
Oh.
And the cards, like, you have a hand, you draw up a hand of cards, and you take turns asking the players questions.
That's not even a hack. It's a very different game.
Right? Like, you're just like, you know, like,
it's using the mechanic, which is a bunch of leading questions.
right. But you're interrogating, like, you're trying to figure out who among you betrayed the queen and got her killed. Yeah, that might be an interesting thing to mess around with.
I was just reading the chat room.
No, the chat room's like super
Yeah,
interesting.
they've got a lot
Like,
of-
the chat room is.
Mo mentions that Uncle Luke started the conversation about using this game as a player creation tool for another game.
Oh,
be, too.
he had a chain of them. It was microscope to establish a setting.
Yep.
Followed by for the queen to establish what happens to the queen, and then I think then the game that you play, like you start playing a game right after that.
Yeah.
Like that's a super.
It is.
Like that's a cool.
Especially if your microscope game is really confined.
Yes.
And it's about a kingdom.
Yes.
For a period of like 100 or 150 years.
Right, which sets up the queen.
Yeah, and then you have to pick up, and you can pick whichever queen you want in there, and then play around that.
Right, and the last piece in your microscope game is the queen is leaving on this journey.
Yep.
Then you pick up for the
And then you
queen,
start-
you do the
And
journey.
then, yes.
Up to that point.
Right.
Heck, you can even start playing at that point where the ambush starts, whatever game you want to play.
Right, and then I think you do Ange's. Oh God, yes, you get all the way up to you defend the queen, and then you roll up your characters and start playing.
Yeah.
My God, I want to do that at some point. Like that sounds brilliant.
It sounds interesting.
It
for
sounds.
sure.
It is the equivalent of the one that I also in parallel have heard of, which is the Quiet Year as a lead-in to Apocalypse World.
Yeah, it's also pretty good.
Yeah, that would be a very interesting way to set up your Apocalypse World setting.
Right, like that's a. But yes, like super good. Like that would be a super. Like just what a great trio of. What a great trio, because the game of Microscope is totally going to influence your
yeah.
play of For the Queen.
I don't know why we're using Microscope. We could just use Kingdom.
Which is
Sure, why not?
It's the same game.
Yeah.
Essentially.
I mean, microscope lets you. I think like microscope, you wouldn't have to confine it as much. Just that when you make your two borders,
yeah, they're just really
like your border
years or something like
right. But
years.
your border is that she leaves on the thing.
Yeah, that's the
But
right
you could
one.
even go further back.
You
You
could.
could make a whole history of whatever
kingdom?
that,
Yeah,
that
sure.
leads to this war, and then oh, it's good.
But if I was going to do this as a scene setting game, that's the hack that I would use. the
yeah,
one
yeah,
that
no, I
came
think
up
that hack is
with.
pretty cool.
I think it does the things that you need to do for a game to play this game with
Yep.
that, where it's not you can't zoom in on every question because
Right.
that would make the game take forever.
Yeah.
Which I don't think you want that. And it lets you focus in on the things that are really interesting to you with a kind of a resource constraint.
Honestly, if you decided to go deep dive like that, you could do it as a mini campaign and play it over like
You could.
2 or 3 sessions
You
or
could, yep.
whatever,
Yeah.
and just have a bunch of different deep scenes.
I also like thematic reskins of this game. So not full hacks, but like for instance,
Oh, yeah.
we talked about the sci-fi one.
Mhm.
Cyberpunk one would be super easy,
Mhm.
right? The queen could just be like some sort of underworld figure or an AI or something. The other one that I think would be really interesting.
See, the AI one's interesting because then you can use it's you know it's the you call it like whatever like Netrun or whatever like
Yeah.
that, and it's about taking this AI through cyberspace.
Right. Exactly. The other one I could think of is a superhero one where the queen is like a Superman, or aging Superman type of character. Like they were once super powerful, not so powerful anymore,
Mhm.
kind of thing. Like
Where
and
are
they're,
they journeying?
they're not something like Galactus is coming to the planet. Like it's going to be it's like a doomsday thing, right? Like doomsday's coming.
You just call it Doomsday.
Right.
Yeah.
Doomsday's literally like the character Doomsday is coming, and it's unlikely that alone the queen will that Superman whatever will survive this fight.
So you as the Justice League, what do you do to help?
Do you do you also go and help?
Yeah, I mean like
Like do you defend whatever? Yeah.
Rob has a completely radical idea.
Yeah.
Changes the tone completely. Paranoia style hack for the computer.
Oh my god.
oh no.
Oh my god. The computer once showed you kindness. Oh my god, yes. Oh my god, Rob!
Somebody needs to write
The computer
that.
once
right
Rob!
now.
the computer once killed your clone.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
Oh, that would then be my second favorite Paranoia card game ever. The first being the Mongoose card game.
The computer always shows kindness. Wink.
Yeah, right. That's the right answer.
Not a wink, just a big eye.
I feel like I would want to put. I hate to say this, like it would be a card game, but I feel like I want to put a roll in that game using like the Paranoia game die, so that whenever you roll a computer, the computer kills your clone at the end of it.
I think
Like you answer the question, then you roll a die,
Okay,
and then you die.
wait, I
The
got
last
it.
card
Wait,
is, are
I
you
got
happy,
this.
friend citizen?
Wait, let me hack up this game. One player plays the computer and is asking those questions of citizens, and if you don't like the answer, you just waste their clone.
Well, that's why I say use the die. That you
Right.
have a GM-less game, right? Then the
Yeah.
die is the computer.
Yep.
You know, the computer didn't like your answer, you die, and then if you die too many times, you have to make up a new clone.
Yeah. Or you're out.
Or- yeah.
Whoever last in that game,
Yeah, that's last
it's
man
not
standing.
do you defend the computer? It's who can get through the most questions before there's only
Yep.
one player left.
There you
Oh,
go.
that's good too, because then you could. I actually would use a die,
Yep.
and then
Yeah.
as you're flipping cards, you keep the card, and every card that you have in your hand, you have to roll that number higher or you die.
Ouch.
Right? At
Yes,
the end of
because
the
you
question.
can't possibly answer that many questions without tripping up and getting killed by the
Correct.
computer. It's a
Clearly, if you've answered this many questions, you're treated as
oh,
bastard.
okay, wait. All right, so now in order to win the game, because you have to make this winnable, it's not just survival.
Yeah.
Okay. When you get to, we put the computers under attack or whatever. Like we put the end card in this.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Which might just be like reboot. Like the computer reboots, you get a break.
Sure.
But whoever's holding the most cards, all right, is winning. Except that if you get killed, you have to forfeit all your cards. But if you sacrifice your clone, you get to keep like half of your cards.
Oh, that's good.
Right? So like
Because it's like your cards are experience points.
Right, like it's a push.
Because experience is actually a currency in the game.
Right, like it's a push your luck kind of thing. Because you're
Yeah.
like we're low in the deck. If I can just keep under this die, I won't lose all these cards.
Oh, Jesus.
And I don't want to go down half my cards because,
So
like,
you can choose to roll, or you can just spend.
yeah, you could, right.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
that's
because you're
such a
just
good
like, oh,
game.
you answer the question, you're like, nope, the computer doesn't like my answer.
You tell the story, and while you're still telling the story, you still have this other game that's
And
going
I got
underneath
killed.
it. Yeah, and I got killed.
And then you take half your cards
Oh,
and
it's so good.
yeah.
But you only have 6 of those, right?
Yeah, you can only because if you go out too many times, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're balancing. I need to stay in this game. Plus the die is random, right? So if the die comes up, like you're also screwed.
Yep.
It's
Now,
just
the
that when
only
you
problem
have
with this game is that you need to get the rights.
dude,
we already have the connection.
dude, we already know how to do
I'm just
that.
saying that you have to get the rights
No, dude,
for
I got that
Derived
email
from the Queen and the Paranoia.
The Queen is
and
on the
marry them together.
SRD.
It's
Yes.
SRD.
The Queen's on the SRD, and Paranoia, we actually have that email address.
Yes. Oh man.
Right,
that
we
would
need
be
to make
so
this
much
game
fun.
You guys do it. I got enough shit
Yeah.
to do. I'm writing
know.
I'm
And
writing
you
a
know
Ditch
what?
Lily's
You know
game.
what?
I can't.
I know a guy. I can get a guy to help with
There
that.
we go.
There you
I
go.
can't do that. That's a card game. You guys should do that.
Yeah.
That's definitely
Well, I
that's
mean,
a
it's
you.
a card game like this.
Right, that's a you thing.
Oh, man.
I myself am.
We gotta go because it's getting late already.
Okay, let's go to the lobby.
Let's go to the conversation corner.
Yeah, there we go.
Where's
Anyway, that was our EP of For the Queen. Once again, by the Diana Jones winning designer Alex Roberts, available from Evil Hat.
There's a link in the show notes to get it.
Link in the show notes. Go get it or bug your FLGS to start getting this game on the shelf.
Absolutely, it's so good.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Sure. What do we want to talk about in the social media depository?
Oh, cool. I did some stuff.
Yeah, what'd you do?
Well, so one, I played some Minecraft,
Yep.
obviously.
Really?
Yeah,
Is that like a nightly occurrence or mostly nightly occurrence?
Almost
pretty much.
nightly, yeah.
But let me tell you, the one panic was the server went down during the weekend while Schmitty was at Gen Con. Like, it was a bit panicky because Schmitty was at Gen Con, and we're all like, Schmitty, the server's down. Luckily for us, Schmitty is a pretty dope admin and was able to restart the server from their phone. So like they were at Gen Con and they're like, hang on, servers back up. You guys can get back in.
Schmitty's just awesome.
To which I scolded Tony because I was like, Tony, Schmitty is at Gen Con. We are in a degraded service mode right now. Do not stress the server.
He did.
There are two people. There are
going
two
on.
high-end users going on in the game.
Schmitty did it well in a game of dialect.
Yes.
Playing dialect, reset the server.
We love Schmitty. I actually was a little sad because I was all set to jump in and it died, like 5 minutes into playing. And I went and just started back my solo session. And I was very bummed.
What do you think for the magical girl?
I mean, I think there's probably a way to do it, but
Yeah.
I think that's closer. That For the Magical Girl fits into that one that is already on, the one that Bob described. Anyway, so I played some more Minecraft. I downloaded Cyberpunk Red on Thursday morning.
Was your heart broken?
No. I don't think so. Let me just say this. I'm going to start reading it shortly. And if I like what I read,
I'll play Cyberpunk with you.
we're playing it here.
Okay.
I saw a couple things that I liked. They changed net running, so it's not the sub game where you have to sit in the corner and like you just have net actions that you can take while you're with the team.
I'm doing the happy dance.
I like that one a lot.
Land.
The other one I liked was there was a lot of flack on Twitter that about the rule like cybernetic replacement leads to cyberpsychosis, right? So actually, there's a paragraph in the game that I really liked, which basically states that if you get a cybernetic prosthetic for a lost limb or to change your gender or whatever, those don't impact your humanity.
Which is good.
It's only when you do things like you put on an arm that can flip a car over, like things that push you past.
When you become a superhuman because of your cyberpunkness.
Yeah.
Exactly, that it starts to erode on you. And the Cyberpunk Red, which is the quick start, does not actually have the cyber psychosis rules in it. It makes mention of it, and then it says that the pre-gens for this game are set up so that they can't get it.
Okay.
Like they're set with like a low amount of cyberware. Anyway, first of all, it looks really good. You have to remember, I got this game when it was made on a Mac in 1990, right? Like when it was Cyberpunk 2013. Like it is professionally laid out. The artwork is gorgeous. The layout is excellent. It came with a rule book, a world book, pre-gens, stand-up paper minis if you want them, and tiles for the adventure that's in the back of the book.
Well, that's cool.
Like it's very playable. And it looks like they kept most of the core mechanic, which Jerry did have a couple good points that if you jack your characters too high, because it's skill plus stat plus 1d10, and if you max out your skills and stats, that 1d10 winds up being far less important because the whole number before the 10 starts to outweigh the swinginess of what the 10-sided die
is.
Superhero.
But
I think the way the characters are built,
being
like
a D&D player from way back in the day, I don't really have a problem with that.
I don't know. I've played some Cyberpunk games that were wildly out of control.
Do you still fail if you roll a 1?
No.
Well, then they should revisit that.
That's the thing, right? So there's no guaranteed
House
failure.
rule. That's my first house rule.
Right.
If you roll a 1, you fail.
Well, that's a 1 in 10 chance every
That's
time you
fine.
fail. That's a little. If you roll a 1,
sure is Cyberpunk.
Maybe.
It's
Anyway,
a brutal, unforgiving world.
Anyway, I'm gonna go back actually, and so I'm gonna start reading Cyberpunk Red shortly, and if it looks good, because it has like a little adventure that goes with it. If it looks good, we'll play it here. Like I would love to do that. Plus, I would love to ambush Mike Pondsmith and interview Mike Pondsmith. Like, sorry, Doc, but I got to take this one. I played a lot of Cyberpunk as a kid. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
I think Doc will forgive you.
Yeah. Like, I need to do this interview. By the way, if anyone knows Mike Pondsmith, like seriously, like I would love to nerd out on the mics and just talk about.
Yes, an introduction would be fabulous.
Yeah, if somebody can make that introduction for me, I would big heart. I would forever love them.
I don't want to cut you short. But,
no, that's fine.
We'll move to Bob, and then we'll move to the Patreon shoutouts.
All right. Yeah, so my new desk is working out great. The much more ergonomic position is doing wonders for me. So I'm not totally wrecking my shoulder every time I sit down to do stuff at the computer. I did have a wonderful surprise. I got my new phone like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
and discovered the other day when I went to Tops that I lost all of my bonus card, all the cards that I had in the app. I had Stocard.
Oh.
And there was no backup of it.
Mm-hmm.
So all of my card information is gone. So I have to go back, find the cards at home, scan them into that or maybe the Samsung version of Stocard or whatever, and put my cards back in because I couldn't get my bonus thing to do the scan at Tops, and the Tops one wouldn't recognize my phone number.
Can I make a recommendation rather than using one of those third-party ones?
Mm-hmm.
There's one from Google.
Oh, there's an actual Google one?
It's Google Pay.
Oh, yeah.
But Google Pay has a card thing. Like, all of my cards are in there.
Does it have, like, your Tops bonus card?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
cool.
like, so I don't even have it set up to pay. Mm-hmm. I just have all the
scan thing.
I have all my, like, my hotel cards, my airline cards,
That's
all
cool.
of that.
I'll have to do that.
But that was a surprise that I was like, oh, crap.
Because that way it'll follow you.
Yeah, if it's Google, it'll be stored on the cloud.
Let's go so we can have an after show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because those are important things for the patrons.
Yeah, absolutely.
But speaking of patrons, let's do some Patreon shoutouts. It's the first. It's after the first, so we're gonna do the Royal Court because it's what we do. Eileen Barnes, the Duchess of Pandas Talking Games. Andrew Dacey, the Warden of Whiskies, which just got shouted out on Pandas. Andy Olson, the Duke of Dice. Brian Kurtz, the Royal Doctor of Physic. Christopher Gray, the Spy Master of MMP. Craig, the Lord of One Name. Donnie Harville, the Lord of the Slack Room. Eric Bonts, the Duke of Gitters and the Lord of Beefness, and the only person who will ever have 2 titles on this show.
Ever.
GM Gerrymander, the Lord of the After Show. Jesse Edmond, the Royal Doctor. Jim Likes Games, our Royal Merchant. John C. LeMay, the Guard at the End of the World. I bet he's lonely out there. You think he's lonely? I think he's lonely.
Might be.
John Carney, the Court Necromancer, because he's also Evil John. That's not a title. That's a nickname. Kevin Lovecraft, the Royal Beard. Merrick Blackman, the Royal D&D Reviewer. Mike Dinos, the Inquisitor of Mark. P.K. Sullivan, the Queen's Royal Rocketeer. Rob Abrazato, the Gauntlet of the Queen, our Chief. Dun, 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 dun,
Our boss.
Dun, 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 our boss, yeah. Schmitty, the Keeper of the Labyrinth, Toby Sennett, the Baron of Britannia, Todd Crapper, the Prophet of Probability, and the best name in gaming. We didn't give him that title, he just has it. Richard Wyatt, the Captain of the Royal Airship Fleet, and Jared Rasher, the Scribe of MMP.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yeah, if you are, sorry, I'm sitting here chatting with the room.
Yeah.
If you're free Tuesday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's time,
Almost to pick it up.
come join us live on Twitch where you can chat with other listeners in the awesome chat room for life and ask us the occasional question.
You know, if you can't make it to our live show, you can check out our podcast each week wherever you get your podcasts. In fact, you might be listening to us right now. You should also take a listen to some of the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Down with D&D, Bone Stone and Obsidian, Pandas Talking Games, also known as Ditch Lily Talk, Cyberspeak with Darcy and Troy, The Gnome Cast, the Wednesday Evening Podcast All-Stars, Zhang Hustle, She's a Super Geek, and Bonus Experience. You can and should also check out our sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, you know, your cardboard concierge, The Knights of the Night with their amazing APs, and the always amazing Gaming and BS. And by the way, on Twitter, you can go see Brett open up the box of Avalon books that he got.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. After you have made your decision to defend the Queen or not, leave us some feedback if you're still alive. You can reach us directly via email at mmp@misdirectedmark.com. Check out our awesome Facebook group.
Ding!
Hit us up on Twitter. The show, the network, is at Misdirected Mark. He's at Robert M. Everson. He's at The Light 101.
Woo.
I am DNA Phil. And of course, please go break in and get that new forum smell out of our forums. Check out the Misdirected Mark forums, forums.misdirectedmark.com.
I like the new forum smell.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you know, you can't last forever.
Hey, if you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can and should support our Patreon campaigns. MMP, Down with D&D, and Pandas Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. She's a Super Geek is at patreon.com/SassGeek. Zhang Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhang Hustle. And last but certainly not least, Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Down with D&D, and Pandas Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, the Pandas Talking Games bonus outtakes, and other special releases.
Well, this has been another Misdirected Mark production. You know, another installment of the Misdirected Mark podcast. You know, 367, that's a lot. Which is also the media arm of Encoded Designs, which was going to continue making amazingly fun games for you all to play. With that, I will say a mic drop.
We out!